Go ahead.
Once we've made sure that the two ends meet perfectly, we're ready to solder it together. So we're going to permanently bond these two ends. So a couple of reminders: there can't be any gaps between the two ends, and you want to make sure that it's lined up top to bottom as well. So this would be an issue if you had it one higher than the other. So again, between using your hands and gently crimping down on the gap right here and getting that moved together, sometimes you need to overlap it and pull it back on itself. Once you have that ready to go, here's one that's already ready to go. You're ready to set it up to solder. So in order to do that, remember you're going to use your soldering block. It's basically a simple chip solder. It's going to be the same thing that you did when you set up your ring to solder together. Runaway bezel. You're going to take your flux and you're going to coat the entire piece. If you use too much flux on a piece this small, when you heat that up to dry it, it could turn into really bubbly and move your flux around, or move your solder around. So make sure that it's just a thin coat of flux on here. It tends to work better if you lay it this way rather than lay it the way so that the gap is on the top. That doesn't tend to work as well. I find it easier to heat this way. So I have my piece with some flux on it. I'm going to go ahead and get my solder and cut my solder down, remembering to use the tin snips and remembering that the size of the pieces are going to be about the size of the head of a pin. So when I go ahead and cut, I'm going to go ahead and mark it, the tin snips, face it towards the table, and just gently cut a couple of pieces. Now I really only need one piece of solder. You'll notice that I'm actually using medium. It's better to start your first solder with either hard or medium because that's a higher melting temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and get some flux on here. If you prefer to use a toothpick, that works as well. And the flux is going to pick up your solder chip, and then you're going to kind of lay it on where your seam is. There are a couple of different places that you can lay this on. You can go ahead and lay it on the very top where they meet. You can lay it on the outside edge where the two ends meet, or you can even have it on the solder block touching where that seam is, or sometimes you have it on the inside edge. As long as it is on that seam somewhere, you can be successful. I tend to like to have my solder chip on the very top and use heat to pull that down. After we get this set up, we're ready to move over to the solder station to get that soldered together.
Okay.
Do we need to do that?
No, I was just